What's up, YouTube? Today I want to talk about why software engineering interviews are broken. First of all, if anybody asks me what the interviews are like, I would say it's shit, so much shit. I'm not even joking. It's terrible. I've been on both sides of the interviewing process, as you know, both the interviewer and the interviewee, and it's just shit. Anyways, let's first talk about what it's like. There are a couple of stages, and let's say you're interviewing for like a tech company. First, you'll probably talk to a recruiter, and this is typically called the phone screen. And this could be an internal recruiter working for the company that you're actually applying for, or it could be an external recruiter who gets paid every time their prospects get hired. And these recruiters typically do the cold calling to see if you're looking for new opportunities and what kind of things you're looking for. They also do a quick phone screen to see what kind of skill sets you have and what kind of comp you're looking for. And they also try to make sure that they're not sending a psychopath to the next round. And this whole process will take about 30 minutes. Then you'll probably have another phone screen or like an online session with the hiring manager. This is where they quickly check your technical abilities by talking about your experiences, and they might ask you a couple of like technical questions to make sure that you're not BSing your resume and whatnot. And the technical questions might include things like, what is object-oriented programming, or like what is the different types of SED tables for a database. If you answer these questions well enough, congrats, you made it to the next round on site. Yeah, so this is where things get interesting. Pre-COVID, you go into like the office and do some meet and greet with all the potential coworkers of yours, and check out the office, check out the nice ping pong table that they might have, and all the fun stuff. Then the friendly time is over. You go into like a detailed session with a bunch of folks to prove that you're a competent engineer. You would cover things like algorithms, or like system designs, past projects, past systems that you've managed. How would you manage, or how would you go about resolving conflicts at a workplace? And at the end of the day, you're just exhausted and you're done with on-site. Assuming everything goes well, they make you an offer and a fun conversation about negotiation happens. And this is pretty much the flow of the interviewing process. So why does it suck? First of all, it is way too long. The phone screening could be 30 minutes to an hour. If you have a take-home exam, it could take anywhere from 8 hours to 24 hours, and the on-sites are typically 6 hours. So it's obviously draining for the interviewee, and it's a big time commitment for the interviewers. And on top of all that, some companies might take a long time between each of the process. Anything from like a few weeks to a few months. So it's just really draining for each step. I personally consider take-home exams to be one of the better tools to measure a candidate's ability. You get to see how the candidate organizes the code and solves the problem that we give to them on their own way. But once again, it's just too long of a process. This setup expects the candidate to commit a huge amount of time just to prove themselves for a problem that it's a toy problem. It's not a real world problem that you have to solve. So I've seen many candidates just drop out whenever they hear the word take home. Yeah, it's not fun. So the second problem I have is that you're expected to go through tons and tons of preparation for skill sets that you don't use on a daily basis. So this includes generic problems like determine if a list of words is all palindromes or not. A palindrome is a word that you can spell from backwards and it'll be the same words. Yeah, and like who cares, right? Who cares? Or like other problems could be find the sum of all the digits in a number, right? And these problems are supposed to test your ability to break down a problem and figure out if you can get solutions out of it. Yeah, solutions as in plural. A lot of these problems are there's multiple ways of solving it, and then you're supposed to kind of provide pros and cons of each solution that you come up with, in terms of like time complexity or space complexity and other factors and whatnot. The truth is, like you don't solve these kind of problems in the real world or any job setting that I know of. I mean, there's no business that makes money by figuring out if a word can be reversed to be the same word or not. Or like, why do you need to add all the digits in a number? I mean, that's not how numbers work. So you're basically getting tested on problems that nobody cares about, and also solutions that people don't care about as well. It's definitely not indicative of actual performance if you were to be hired for that position. If I wanted to, test your Python skills, I think the most that matters is accessing like an API endpoint. Get some list of images and kind of reorder them in the size of images or something. So pretty basic, right? And so far, I've criticized the coding portion a lot, but I do think the system design is something that's valuable in the interview process. I mean, it's not an everyday thing that you have to come up with the design of a new system. But if somebody asks you, like, how to make the next Twitter or Instagram, it kind of lets you demonstrate your ability as an engineer. Can you ask the right questions to get the right requirements? Can you come up with a solution that solves the problem? Do you understand like the advantages and drawbacks of each design decision that you come up with? I think that part is very useful. It's definitely something useful or that helps you on the job, and also when you have to come up with a new system in your job. And the third problem I have is this is related to the previous example, but from a different aspect, different perspective, different aspect. It's just not a lot of preparation because there's so many things that software engineers need to know to do their job. So many things could be asked during the interview, so you have to prep for all those different questions and scenarios: coding prep, system design prep, interview prep, negotiation prep. Because there's so many topics that could be covered, there's just so many ways to actually prep for them as well, like books, online coding, websites, podcasts, YouTube channels. I mean, there are even like online services that help you prepare for interviews, like Interview Kickstart. And all these services are there to help you perform better in the interview, but not necessarily as an engineer. It basically is just a whole bunch of like SAT or TOEFL prep courses that people have to do to get the job at their dream company. And they all cost money, right? Some are like $150 per year, not too bad. Other services that require commit, like Interview Kickstart, charge like $5,000 just for prepping you for an interview. And these are not something that you go through in a week or two, right? It typically takes months to prepare. It takes a long time because it's all skills that most engineers don't use on a daily basis. So they have to spend nights and weekends just to freshen up their memory. This is an excerpt from one of the books, and it shows the timeline of the interview prep itself. And this happens all in parallel with all the job hunting itself, right? You're looking at different company websites. You're in contact with all the recruiters. You have to figure out how much funding each company has and what kind of culture they have. It's almost like a full-time job. But don't forget the job that you actually have. If you're looking while you're employed, so it's a full-time job while you're having a full-time job. So by now, I feel like you share my feelings about why interviews suck. But how can we make this better? How can we improve this? Well, it's a difficult situation. I kind of think there are a couple ways to change the interview process. I mean, one way is having like an evaluation period, as through like a part-time gig. And I've done contract work in the past, and for this specific company, there wasn't any like an interview. The CTO just wanted me to work on some few tickets, as if I was already hired. And I guess by working through those tickets and seeing how I communicate with different stakeholders, the CTO got to see whether I was like a good fit or not. It was a bit surprising in the beginning, but I think it's a great way for both parties to get to know each other. The hiring team can get to know the candidate better, by assessing their capabilities through actual work. And on the other hand, the candidate gets to see the inside and see what the culture is. And on the other hand, the candidate gets to see the inside, see the culture and see how people interact, which is really hard to do, through an interview, right? And on top of that, for my contract work, I was getting paid, regular wages. So that was nice. Of course, this looks like a much heavier commitment from, both parties, but I think it's beneficial in the long run. I've seen way too many people getting hired because they presented themselves well in the interview, but they got laid off afterwards because they couldn't actually perform in the actual job. So the next thing I can think of is having some type of certification that allows the credibility to come from another trusted party. And this idea is not new. It is very common in other industries like doctors, pilots, and other highly technical positions. My wife is a dentist, and she was super surprised to see how complicated the interviewing processes are for software engineers. You know, dentists are required to go through, you know, so many years of schooling and exams, and the dental license that they get at the end kind of speaks for itself. So she tells me that the interviews for dentists, you know, typically are done through lunches, you know. And so they go on a lunch with the owner of the clinic, and boom, job secured. That was a total commitment of 1 hour. They don't get quizzed on, you know, dentistry, or they're not asked to perform some, like, you know, surgery or anything. And sometimes they don't even talk about dentistry, you know. It's like mind blowing. So this just makes me think, like, why can't it be the same for, you know, software engineering? And no, computer science degrees from universities don't count. There's a reason bootcamp grads without comp sci degrees are able to, like, succeed so much in the industry. The degree just doesn't reflect the knowledge and, you know, skills required to do the actual work. But if you get the certificate from, like, a rigorous testing, it just lets the hiring team know that the candidate has basic understanding of, you know, how to code, how to debug, how to design, and all that, you know, good stuff that typically happens in, you know, interviews. So yeah, these are the my thoughts on how, you know, things can be improved. Definitely not the easiest thing for the industry to accept, but I think it's much better than the arbitrary, like, studying and preparation that, you know, everybody has to go through. It just saves so much time and money for everybody. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.